Well, it was half full just 30 seconds ago. I guess I'm drinking a lot of coffee lately. 30 degrees or less outside, wind chills of 15. Yeah, I've been drinking a lot. The other thing that's offending me lately is all these calls, almost all from Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I have to sit back and put the stupid things on a spam list. Add to reject. Here we go. If you're calling from a 770 number, leave a message. No message, you're going to get deleted and blocked. Not necessarily in that order. Well, anyway, what am I on here for today? Well, I was out on the road yesterday, and quite a few things actually. It turned out pretty good. We were putting together a John Deere 40, but I looked at the tag, and I was going to take a picture of it so I could put information together to store some. And the tag said 40S, but this is what you would call the little utility model. And it was one of the funny things that he and I were laughing about, because he has both a 40 little mini utility, and then he has the 40, what would be the equivalent of his little tractor is an M series, and the other tractor is the MT version. In other words, there's the M utility, M tractor. Actual tried to turn a utility tractor into a field tractor. Not very successful. It's a utility size tractor. It's about 25 plus horsepower. And to be honest, the M40, 420, 430, 435 series is John Deere's first actual 100% John Deere built tractor. The other laydown two cylinders were Waterloo's actual Waterloo tractors that they bought. So they were just continuing the Waterloo on. Well, several things came to mind while I was working it. One of them is, when you're on the road, if you can use carburetor cleaner, great. Mineral spirits, well, okay. But you know what I found works as well for cleaning anything? Just take a big old can of PB Blaster with you. Don't necessarily soak things in it, but yeah, you could put a small little bucket in there and soak the parts in it. That would work out pretty good. And why do I say that? Well, it can do a lot of lubricating as you're putting things together, for one. When you're cleaning, it's a penetrant, so it gets underneath things and lifts it off, similar to a soap. I had this new, very inexpensive, I think, Clean 88 or something like that, I picked up at Lowe's. And I mean dirt cheap inexpensive, like less than half, like a third of the price of any of the other Purple Powers and oil eaters and all of that. Much less. Even less than green, which the simple green is not that good at all. I know people have said it's great, but no. It works, but not well. Well, this stuff I tried, and it seemed to be okay. You know, it wasn't a great grease cutter, but it worked. But when I got done spraying PB Blaster, I bought the blaster kit, the gallon, and the spray bottle. Buy the spray bottle. Trust me on this. I think I've had 3 or 4. What did I have? 3 or 4 spray bottles that just rotted themselves. They stuck. They were worthless. The PB Blaster bottle works great. And the bottom is like a PB Blaster aluminum can that you screw the pump onto. And the pump can handle the blaster. So buy it. It's worth it. And it's the blaster size can. No aerosol, so it'll work. You don't have to worry about running out of propellant. And I was quite happy with that yesterday. The other thing I've done is I took one of those little pump-up air spray bottles that you can put your garden stuff in and cleaning solutions. Well, don't put mineral spirits in those things. It ain't going to last. And you can't use one for chlorine, because I bought one thing of chlorine. That's got to be the toughest there is. Poured PB Blaster in it. No. Then I got a regular one for water and other similar water-based stuff. Poured in the blaster. I'm still using it. Works great. You can pump it up and just hit the lever, and you can spray what you want. You get a little distance on it. Get more volume just by opening the tip. It works good. You can do the same with a blaster that's smaller and lighter. So I have both and love them. I'll probably continually buy the gallon bulk if I can afford to do so each time. But when I was out on the road, I'm just coming to the conclusion that it worked for. I had to do some honing in a cylinder that was rusted. There was no way to fix it permanently without boring it out. So no, I mean, one cylinder honing may have done it, but the other cylinder would have needed 30 over to bore it out, clean it up. I can't quite do that yet, and the customer, a friend of mine, didn't want to go that far with it, just wanted to get it running. Said, okay, we can do that. And but every time I use blaster, cleaning out the holes, if there's oil in them, clean out the oil. You spray blaster in a hole, clean the blaster out, run your the rethreaders through the holes, use blaster to help clean it. Blaster so far that I've seen is as good a cleaner as anything else. When I'm here in the shop though, I think I have 15 gallons of oil heater in the bottom of a 55-gallon drum with a drum heater on it. So I heat up and get it over 100 degrees, and the stuff seems to work pretty good. But the only thing I need to do is some form of turntable or agitation or something. And then I have to put in a defoamer. Because if I leave it in there and just I had a little parts washer pump and just pour water over the parts cleaner over top of the part, and it works fairly well. It actually did when it's warm. But it has that problem of foaming up, and I opened the top up and it was almost to the top, foamed suds. So that was kind of funny. So I'll have to throw something in there to break that. But at the same time, it worked nice, and then I was able to sandblasting took half as long. It doesn't work well on rust, even though it should work better than it did. So still, I was pretty happy with all that. But I just forgot to get on here and say that when you're going out on the road and you're going to want your brake clean, there's no doubt about that. A brake clean or a carburetor and choke cleaner, that works out well if you're doing carbon cleaning, better than brake clean will. Everything else, brake clean works a little better. But when it comes into carbon choke and actual carbon, you need the carbon choke cleaner. It works much better. All of them, yeah, mineral spirits works better or can work as well either way. But it doesn't evaporate like the other two do. It's probably cheaper. Yeah. But still, I can say I've been pretty happy with what I have. Eventually, what I want to make is a larger cleaner and go back to the old lye for the cast iron. Because the old sodium hydroxide, you get that nice and warm, 130 degrees, 150. They like it at 180. But if you can get it to 130, 150, oh man, does that do a sweet job of cleaning. And you don't have to soak it. You just spray it on there, and you can use probably 1/10 the water you would need otherwise. But still, even now with what I got, I'm pretty happy with it. But when you're on the road, you take those cleaners with you, like that Spray 88 or Oil Eater or Purple Power, one of those, even Simple Green. Have something there to use, but you're going to have to brush it mechanically. PB Blaster, that's probably going to work for you on its own, even cold. So yesterday, I got up there, I used a brush hone, Research Dingleberry hone, ran that up and down the cylinders with blaster, kept cleaning it out. And we'd already got the rings freed up. Not broken, but freed up from cylinder walls. Let's say freed. That's a lot better than broken. Broke it free? Well, that's old school. Got it moving up and down, and the blaster's been soaking on them for weeks now. Got the head done. Went up there, cleaned them up, sprayed more blaster, ran it up and down when I was honing. Cleaned it all out and ran it up and down, more blaster, clean it and get it wiped out. And had a nice finish in there for as much as we could do. And got the head on there, and now we're going to have to, got the carburetor on. I made a mistake with the carburetor. I put the choke mechanism on the wrong way, so I had to turn that around. That was fun. Got everything all together, hooked up. And I use a gear wrench, torque wrench, 3/8 drive that goes to 100 foot-pounds. Now, if you buy one of these, I'm going to warn you up front. Don't just push the button. There's a lot to it that you're going to have to use your phone and download a manual. But the two basic are the C and the S. And the C, I think, turns the thing on and off, but it also goes into another setting for torque angle. And then over on the other side is a set. You just push it once and run your arrows up and down. and get the setting you want. But while you're running it up and down, your torque setting, you're going to hold it and let it flash through there. Well, the first number starts blipping, then the second number starts blipping fast. And if you continue to hold it like you're going from one end of the scale to the other, because this is, I do believe, is 5 or 10 foot pounds, I think 10 foot pounds to 100 foot pounds. And if you hold it and don't break it once in a while, it'll suddenly start changing the tenth fast. So you'll be going along, minding your own business, and you'll get near 40. You won't even quite get there. And the next thing you know, you're in 10 again, and 20. Well, what'd it do? It went to the end number and sent that one into oblivion, spinning fast. So every so often you get it going, you get your ones digit number spinning along, and then stop and restart it, stop and restart it, stop and restart it. You'll be able to stop. My old thumb and my eyes, and plus I was in the cold, so the LCD display, or even the LED display, wasn't working well. So the numbers just kind of didn't come up so you knew where you were at. You had to stop once in a while and check. But I will say this, the electronics worked, and we were talking 30-degree weather, give or take a few, and it started out overnight, probably in the 20s, low 20s, and then slowly warmed up to about 30 degrees. And it might have warmed up a little more than that in the car, but still, I had the back open while we're working, and there it was laying. And it fired up, it ran, and it worked even in the cold. And I've never had anything electronic like this at all, especially calipers, ever work well in the cold. None of them. Even my battery cordless tools, they don't work well in the cold. Once you got it going and it's working, it's great. So this thing being a gear wrench and 10 to 100 foot-pounds, it actually worked pretty good. I don't like these new beepers. I don't like them at all. They did a good job, but when you're older, they did a good job on your old click type. It releases when you reach, that's the click. It releases and click. Okay? That snap over makes the noise, and your free floating handle, so you tend to stop. Also, you can bring it up and break it over and stay in that area. So, but this one, they were smart enough, they put a vibration in there. So you'll get a feel. But if you're like me and you're not used to it, the first few times you old guys use one of these new beeping and buzzing torque wrenches, you will be furious and want to smash it. Bar none. All of you will. Is it accurate? It's as accurate as any other torque wrench you could ever make. Except the super nuclear certified. And even there, I'd say it's 2%, 2 to 3%. So, and it has a flex head on it, has the vibe, has the electronics. And I've got to say, once you're used to it, you will like it. You'll never be thrilled with it. Lights are flashing red and green. It's beeping, it's buzzing. You just sit there, what? And you're going to want to smash it with a sledgehammer. Well, then once you understand why it's beeping, why it's buzzing, and why it's going red and green, and I think it even flashes a little yellow or amber here and there. But at the same time, once you're used to why and understand it, the great part about that little torque wrench is when you're done, the number is there that your final torque was, your highest torque. So you look at, oh, buzzing, beeping, and I let loose too quick, or I went too far, or I kept pulling, or your old hands will have a number that your eyes can go by to tell you, oops. And you'll feel the buzz. Not as easy. Arthritis takes care of that, but the kids like them. You're not going to at first. Don't let any Snap-on, Mac, Matco, or Conwell guy tell you that you're going to love it. You're not. But if it's the only torque wrench available, please buy it and get used to using it. You will be satisfied with the results in the end. I'm not going to say you're going to be thrilled with it. Napa has very inexpensive versions of the bugger, and guaranteed they're gear wrench knockoffs, just painted blue. Okay, they're cast blue into plastic. But still, you'll have a number to look at, and we old farts love numbers. And you'll pull on that thing, you'll get the vibe, and you'll get the beep, and you'll get the flashing, and then you'll be like, what the? And you back it up and take a look. Oh, yeah, okay. You either need to do more or you went too far. So at least there's evidentiary information for you. which is worthwhile. So just to give you an idea of what to look for. And on the lower stuff, I was doing up 95 foot-pounds on cylinder head bolts. I'm going to have to retorque them later on after I run the thing a little while and reset the valves. But right now the valves are just rough set. I snug them down, back them up, then just take out the play and back them up a half turn. Rattle, 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 rattle. But they'll still open and close the valves. Make sure the old girl works and then do the final setting afterwards. Because, oh, it's not the... Yeah, it is the proper way to do it, jackass. I know it's too wide a gap, which means I'm sure that two things can happen. One, it's definitely going to miss the piston. If you're overhauling an engine and your cam's out of time, you just gave it another gap to miss the valves because you can't start it. You protected yourself. Number two, it's still proper because it'll open the valves far enough to operate properly. And when the valve bangs in, because if you have machine seats that you were smart enough not to lap in, if you have machine seats, you do not lap them in unless you're looking for confirmation of something. And even then, that's kind of jackassery. Unless you read both the valve and the seat. Because you can have a nub in that seat that hits in exactly the right spot. One side, you'll lap it and have a beautiful looking face on your seat. And you can have 3/4 of the seat never contacting. But the valve will have a lovely looking seat ring on it. True story. Been there, done that, seen it many years ago. If you use the New Way system improperly, you will get that. If you use it properly, it's as good as any system that there is. So guys like to claim the same with grinding stones. I don't think grinding is as accurate. But grinding is accurate. And the beauty about that is if you're concerned with grinding, you do lap them in, thousands or so. But machine seats, you should never lap them in. They should have an interference fit, 1 degree. Bang them against the seat. Don't turn it. Even if you have to put a mark on it, bang it against the seat. Pick it up. Take a look. And you'll see a nice concentric ring when everything is proper. Then you'll be happy. So then putting that little gap in there allows that seat to spring shut, to pound into the seat. It's only a few thousandths, but you've got enough gap, and you know you're going to be adjusting it later on anyway if you have half a brain. Especially if you're retorquing. Now, if you have torque to yield bolts, no, you're not retorquing. They're set. You're checking. Okay? Usually you end up checking when everything's stone cold, and you're just turning to a particular set torque to be sure that it doesn't take any more. And normally, whatever your last torque setting was before you started the torque to yield turn, or TT, turn torque to yield, TTYL, or TTY, when you set it whatever they think is the rough foot poundage that is semi-equivalent to that, and you're going over and checking it. That's it. And if you have one of them that pulls, then you have to start over again on that bolt. Or you missed it, which should be rare because you marked the bolts. Excuse me. My favorite has been to stay consistent throughout history with every bolt possible, to always start it at whatever position it is, so that when it ends up, whether it's 120 degrees, 90 degrees, 60 degrees, 30 degrees, 45, whatever you're supposed to turn, ends up pointing forward. Remember, each point is, what did I figure out each point was? Each point was 60 degrees, 6 points. 6 times 6, 36. Correct? So 60 degrees per point. 60 degree per flat. Split it, it's 30. 45 is roughly 2/3. That's when it starts getting sketchy, and you're better off having a degree of some sort, wheel of some sort, but still, even then, a close guesstimate is sufficient. But I try to make it so they all point forward on the engine, whether it's on the side, the top, the back, wherever. If it's on a flywheel, so they point out or point in. Make sure you have a direction so that when you're done, You can just eyeball them quick. Ding, 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 ding. You're not, well, this one starts here and ends there, and you've got, no. You want everything in one direction. Well, yeah, but my starting point, that's right. Your starting point may not be on a pointer or flat, but it'll be close enough. You turn 90, yeah, you got to sketchy guess it. Get a protractor if it's that big a deal. A doggone mini carpenter square. Deep, deep. I've done that before. Make a 90-degree mark. You want this mark to end here. This one goes there, and then you turn it. Well, then every bolt should have an L on it. Shouldn't it? So that's how to avoid trouble on some of these things. And that's what I was doing with this one. Same idea. No, we don't know what the rings are. There's a lot of question marks with this engine. We know that. But there's a lot of question marks that are gone. We know the valves are seated. We know the valve guides are in spec from serviceable all the way down to one is in perfect condition. I put a valve sleeve in it and measured it to, I think, 2.5, 3 thousandths clearance, which is dead in spec. New spec. And why did you do the other 3 or 4? The other 3, well, they didn't need them. They were in general specification and operable. We aren't looking for miracles here. We're looking for a good running tractor, not a perfect engine. Besides that, why go through all that work and you already know you got 2 hurt pistons and some rings that are sketchy. We'll have to tear it off later anyway. And if we want to do something perfect then, because a problem shows up, then we can fix it then. But at this point, I think we're going to be good. What else on that engine? Not much. Oh, I took a flat steel plate. I know I've talked about it before. My plate, I think, is about 3/4 thick. I keep saying half before, but I think it's more than that. And I put it on my platen sander and double checked with a straight edge to be sure it's less than down in the thousandths or less. Wrapped sandpaper over it. And what did I get? Something. It wasn't exactly emery, but it was close. And this is tough paper that I got. And we ran that across the manifold. I could have done it on the platen sander, but I wasn't sure 100%. And anything we were questioning on, we could put that thing on almost anything. The top of the cylinder, sanded that down for a while until it looked like we were at least scuffing in certain areas. So that puts us within 2 thousandths. The gasket can, anything under 5 thousandths, your average gasket on your antique tractor will handle it just fine. If you're out plowing all day long or chopping hay, now you got a problem. But especially for a 25 horse tractor chopping, that's a problem. But still, it'll handle under 5 thousandths. 5, you better start making your mind up what you're doing. If you have wet sleeves involved, no. Your deck's got to be there, and your sleeve needs to be even within, usually the rim has to be within 2 thousandths from any area all around it, or you start squeezing things off enough, you're going to break the rim and the sleeve. Here, this is a parent bore motor, so we don't have that problem. We just wanted the top flat to the cylinder head. And the head I already knew was flat because it's platen sander. Put the straight edge on it, double checked, and 1 thousandths and a half didn't even begin to go underneath the edge anywhere. It's perfect. So something I had said years ago that, no, not even years ago, here recently. If you have a good working platen sander with a good belt on it that's been shaved off, I mean, take a piece of metal and actually run it across it to break off all the high spots. All right? Especially if you're going to put aluminum on there. Never put a raw belt on there before you start resurfacing aluminum. Always run something steel across it to break the high spots off, because you can tear that aluminum up. But once you're down there and you're very careful with the aluminum and how you manipulate your cylinder heads and manifolds and everything else on there, you can come up with the flattest surface possible. Well, you hear Steve Morris say, no, and Steve is correct, especially if you look at Steve's video and he tells you specifically when he set that head up, it is as close as possible, and they take light cuts because otherwise you get tail chatter, where it's swiping across here and you get a back swipe back there and you'll end up with a crosshatch pattern that doesn't cut well and it will not be a good surface. Listen carefully to these people. And when they tell you you can screw up because it was, what's the name of that other guy down there? Dang it. There's a southern boy down there in Carolina. I can't remember. And he has a platen sander there, and he'll tell you as well. You can't just throw something on there. You have to manipulate things properly. But if you use it, it works wonderful for so many things. They'll all tell you the same thing. Another one, who was it there? Who is it? Josh, the rehab guy or whatever. He'll show you pictures of where cylinder heads have been, and I don't know how. You can see that the platen sander made contact, but there's highs and lows all over it. It's horrible. I've never seen that from anything I've ever done, ever. But I have seen where I screwed up and nicked one end or a corner or something and had to make a decision whether to grind it down to that point or that's not going to be a problem, then go on with it. You have to manipulate it properly. It's up to you. It's not the platen sander's perfection. But then again, the platen sander has to be checked, just as I told you. When I put that steel plate on there and ran it across and got it all nice, flat, and level, and checked the steel plate, now you know your platen sander's pretty close. Every so often, you have to check your platen sander, either by machining or sanding, grinding a head off and checking the head, or taking your belt off and putting your straight edge over the plate and double checking it. Because they have plates, and that's the only way I can figure out that these guys get some of these things off, is that there are multiple plates down through there that can be adjusted to get this sucker fine-tuned. And if all they did was run the thing against the stop and sit there and grind the head, you will get those high and low spots that Josh the rehab guy will show you. You will get them. And I'm a huge advocate of platen sanders. But all these guys are correct when they tell you it can screw something up badly. Yeah, it can. I've even taken a Ford tractor block, 7600, I think, 7610, 7600 Blue Power Special, basically a 256 engine. And I sleeved all 4 holes. I don't know why he wanted all 4 holes, but he did. When I got done to make sure it was all flat, I turned the block upside down, hung it on a spring, put it against the platen sander to know where it was, lifted it just ever so gently, started it, and then put it against there and manipulated it myself and got that checked, perfect, and flat. But by that time, I'd had a year or two's experience. And aluminum heads, love it. Absolutely love it for aluminum heads. And you'll say, well, wait a minute. No, they're still accurate. Now, that's one place where the PCD cutter properly worked, where it's even more important on your machine, don't broach an aluminum head. You're better off taking a DA sander across your head to get a better finish and running your straight edge to check it. The rotary broach will ruin aluminum head if it's not set up proper. The preset of a rotary broach is more important than how it's mounted almost. But if it's mounted wrong, you can destroy an aluminum head fast. PCD cutter on a high-speed head, spray it with WD-40 for your final cuts to just take a couple of thousandths off. Smooth, sweet. That's the best finish ever. I'll even say that over the platen sander. However, the platen sander avoids that 1 to 2 thousandths center head droop. Well, that's nothing. It is. Until 100,000 miles in, mine's going to last maybe another 10 or 20,000 miles longer because it's flat. But 2 thousandths on a head gasket, no problem. 2 thousandths on an MLS gasket, multiple layer steel, too much. 1 thousandth, you're in there. Just 1 to 2 would probably on the copperhead gaskets, like Steve Morris runs on the turbo stuff. Copper will take it out better, up to 2 better than anything else. But he proved it. He showed that 1 thousandth is what he had his head set for. You have to have a lead. One side is going to be down further. There's no way around it. It's usually about 5 thousandths. And the bigger your head, that 5 thousandths lead means far less. Okay? A wider swath. So, trust me, these guys all know what they're talking about, and they all are correct. And I still love my platen sander. Why? Because I'm king of what happens on it. And it's easy to check. So, yeah, you put a manifold on there, don't put a V8 manifold on there. You'll screw it up. Oh, you can. There are ways that you can do that and come out nice flat surface. I don't recommend it. And I've used one of these things for almost 30 years. Just saying. So anyway, that's where I'm going to get back out there now. I got to unload the car with all the stuff that I have in there. Debbie, I think, wants to go work out this afternoon. She'll probably take the Toyota, and I got to unload the thing and put everything back into my car till I can get my car up on the jacks. I got a lot of work to do on that. I have a A-frame to lower control arm to replace on the right front. I got to put two rear brake cylinders on there. Another one went bad on the right side. Has had two in the last year, and both gone bad, supposedly. I'll find out when I get it apart. Then up in the front, I got to replace the steering rack, and supposedly that and a light bulb is supposed to pass inspection. We shall see. Time for me to get to work. Why do I spend this time in here? I'm old. I'm retired. I'm waiting for it to warm up outside. I have to get firewood. That's the next thing. And I wait for everything. Ibuprofen. If I take ibuprofen, it's a half hour before I start doing anything. It has to start working. Otherwise, the inflammation that I generally have, it gets worse because the ibuprofen isn't there reducing things when I begin. It makes a huge difference. Some of you got to stop that. You got to, please, don't tell me your story. All right, it may work for you. Go for it. I can cut out anything in my life that I want. Doesn't matter most often. Rheumatoid arthritis that I have has certain triggers. I can have a little bit of dairy carefully, a little bit of soy carefully. I can have a fair amount of meat. Pork doesn't seem to bother hardly at all, but once my rheumatoid kicks up, almost everything bothers it. The biggest trigger? Regular old-fashioned potatoes. An Irishman would devour till kingdom come. One of the easiest plants to grow on the planet. Potatoes. One of the most delicious plants on the planet. Potatoes. They claim there's a way to cook them so that it knocks out a lot of the starch and the hazardous effects to your joints. I got to research that and find it out. Sweet potatoes, king. Love them. They're harder to grow. So hopefully this year. Last year I planted sweet potatoes and something happened, killed everything. So I just let it go. And then we ended up digging up probably 10 pounds of white potatoes that Debbie can eat. And every so often, if I pan fry them, they seem to be okay. But I have to mix them with eggs, some other stuff, and kind of a scromlet thing. So that's why my mornings are usually spent here, keeping the fire going, hitting firewood. So I don't get much done before 10 o'clock or noon, and then I'm out there when it's warmer. So, and the other things, I'll have to hang pictures. We got to fix that. I've got a faucet to put here in the bathtub to finally replace the one that's 10 years past due. It's not even functional. We're using service valves to turn things on. I can't afford the thing. So, but we'll see how that goes. I might not be able to fit the new one in here without making some other changes. Next thing to explore. You guys be good. Peace out. Lord bless. Merry Christmas. I'll probably be back on here later anyway. But who knows? You notice I haven't been on here lately either. My next talk, small engine. Guy brought a small engine into me, pump. Hey Connor, if you're listening to this far, over a half hour in, and talk about some of the problems in a new engine company called LCT, Liquid Combustion Technologies. So far from what I've seen, I'm relatively impressed, but they claim they're made in America, and I think they're assembled in America from Chinese parts. However, this engine shows promise. It's been dusted and still runs pretty good. Catch you later. I'll have more on that when I get through monkeying with it.